Hello and welcome to You Talking to Me. The current European Commission took up its work a bit more than 2 years ago. It's about half time now. Time to review the performance of Team Juncker. Is this Commission different from the ones before? That's what we're going to ask journalists of Euranet Plus network. I'm happy to welcome in our studio Artjoms Konohovs from Latvia's Rádio.
Hello.
Matjaz Trost from RTV Slovenia. Hello. And we'll be joined by other journalists of the network on the phone. Let's start with Gigi Donelli from Radio 24. Ciao, Gigi.
Ciao, buongiorno.
Gigi, on a general basis, what's the Italian assessment of this commission? I'm asking you this on the very same day that Italy announced not to accept the EU budget. Gigi.
Yes, actually, I would say that every answer has to be connected to a very specific political moment. And for Italy, the very specific political moment is that December the 4th, a referendum on constitutional change will probably decide whether Matteo Renzi will be a leader for the future or not. So Europe is a part of this dialogue. And I have to insist on, let's say, putting this decision of recent decision, yesterday, by Italy, so to stop or at least to veto the EU budget in this contest. So for very much political internal consideration.
Juncker, President of the Commission, Jean-Claude Juncker, said or is repeating very often that this Commission is better than its reputation. Is this Commission unfairly blamed for things it's not responsible for? Is Matteo Renzi just using strong words towards Brussels to get the voters from the right on board regarding this referendum you mentioned, Gigi?
Well, it's not. The point is that from the perspective of Matteo Renzi, Brussels is the wall of the European Union. I don't think there is a specific problem with Juncker and with Brussels, but with the fact that the Italian public opinion consider very, very badly the approach of many of the European states toward the problem of immigration, of course. And so to whom should the Prime Minister dialogue with, if not with the Commission?
So it's more the member states that are blamed than the Commission?
Well, let's say that the member states are blamed too, because in a recent case, Matteo Renzi was quite straightforward toward Hungary and other countries. But yes, when there is a specific moment, which, as I said, is the specific moment is December the 4th, the public opinion has to be, let's say, called on, or at least the European Commission has to be called to a responsibility from the perspective of our Prime Minister. And that is why things happen in such a sharp and timing moment.
Matjaz, you are reporting from Brussels since many years now. What is it you would say is different with this Commission, with the Juncker Commission, compared to the one before under José Manuel Barroso?
Well, there are numerous differences. One would, if I sum it up in just one short answer, it would be that both have faced the resurrection of nation-state politics. During all these crisis times since 2010, we have seen the force of Germany, the force of France, the force of Italy even, and the influence these countries have on basically generating the EU agenda. What Barroso did was he played along. What Juncker does, he tries to fight it in numerous occasions. And what we see is that Juncker is trying to play a political role in this EU agenda setting, but I wouldn't say that he is very successful because even if we look at the migration crisis, if we see how the Greece problem developed, it's not resolved yet, we see that there's basically nothing from the Commission that basically stays the same after it comes out as a proposition.
Speaking about this political side, this Commission, Jean-Claude Juncker is always underlining this is a political commission. Is this recognized in your country? I remember when we had a discussion about the Spitzenkandidat, and you said that Jean-Claude Juncker is not a well-known person in Slovenia. Did that change now?
Yeah, it did. He became known, but I wouldn't say that. I mean, given the fact that this is supposed to be a political commission, I don't think Europe needs any more political actors. In a way, it needs what the former commission was. The commissioners who have a reputation, who have a voice, saying this is in accordance with EU law, and this is not. We need a stronger voice like that, because we've seen Brexit, we've seen the rise of National Front in France. We will see many of those examples that that might turn EU around. But as you said, Spitzenkandidaten system was basically a good thing, because Juncker is known and Schulz is also known. But the funny part about this political commission is that it's become more regionally. It takes a regional approach. So you get commissioners going home for the weekends, telling commissions' lines in home countries, and it's quite interesting to see that even in Slovenia, Commissioner Bulc is at the moment the most popular politician in Slovenia, even though she is in Brussels.
Artjoms, this commission has been criticized for neglecting Eastern European countries. It's true that the president is focusing rather on elder EU member states, doesn't he?
It's the feel that you certainly get, because when it feels like when Jean-Claude Juncker is trying to decide on this or that controversial issue, he first and foremost thinks of what the Germany and France would think of this, and then maybe some of the other member states, and then only he sort of tries maybe to take into equation some of the other countries that are there. But it's definitely very much in the center of his work and in the center of his, attention are the older member states. And one could actually see that also in his public communication, because when Juncker is trying to say something to Europe, he goes to one of the major German newspapers. He goes to Le Monde, let's say, in France. He maybe sometimes go to Le Soir here in Belgium. This is it.
Is this criticized in Latvia?
I don't think that for many people this is an issue. They just don't think of Juncker or anyone. I mean, I think if anything, then it's the former Prime Minister Valdis Dombrovskis, who is now the deputy head of the European Commission. He is the most well-known person because he was a Prime Minister and now he is in Brussels. But for other people, I think Juncker is way lower than even most of the MEPs from Latvia. So this is what has been there before, but what we see in the decision-making and what we see in the way Juncker is trying to communicate is clearly showing that he is aiming his attention and work towards the so-called founding member states.
The Commission has been criticized on how it reacted on the fact that the former Commissioner José Manuel Barroso took up a job at Goldman Sachs Bank. Let's turn to Radio Renascença, a member of Euranet Plus, and to its correspondent Vasco Gandra. Vasco, how did Barroso's choice affect his reputation in Portugal?
First of all, everybody in Portugal recognizes that Mr. Barroso did not breach any law, any European rule. But this is not the problem. I mean, the mainstream opinion from journalists to opinion makers, politicians, except those from Barroso political party. So the mainstream opinion is that this is not a legal question. This is a political problem and a very sensitive case for citizens. So what we heard in Portugal is that Mr. Barroso should not accept a job from Goldman Sachs because of the reputation of this bank. This is a very powerful bank that was strongly criticized during the financial crisis that hit so hard European Union and Portugal. This is a bank that was also very criticized for his role during the Greek crisis. So a former president from the Commission should not accept a job from this bank.
And people in Portugal said, like many others, that the so-called cooling off period, the period where a commissioner is not supposed to take another job, should be extended. But Vasco, what about the political future of Barroso in Portugal? Does he have one?
Right now, he hasn't a good image. So another point is that Portuguese people didn't forget that he left the government in 2004. He left his job as prime minister to become president of the commission. So now, can he come back in politics? I think that for Mr. Barroso, this will be very, very difficult for him. But we are living a very strange and tricky period, and in politics, we never know.
The Commission has also been criticized for its the handling of the so-called Oettinger case. German Commissioner Günther Oettinger, who talked about Chinese people as Schlitzaugen, as splitty eyes. This has been a big deal in Brussels. He took 5 days to apologize. Of course, there have been many discussions in Germany, and we are joined by Holger Winkelmann from AMS. Hello, Holger.
Hello.
Holger, the German press was rather nice to Oettinger. Would the reaction have been the same if it had been a German minister saying the same things?
I don't think so. A foreign minister, for example, would have been definitely fired, but such a statement would be unthinkable with the current Frank-Walter Steinmeier, so I don't think that is an issue with Mr. Steinmeier and our foreign minister, so I don't think it would be the same then.
And what about Oettinger's reputation right now in Germany?
The question is not easy to answer. I think there are two reasons why the reputation is still maybe the same. The one is somehow sarcastic, but I believe many Germans are not really surprised by Oettinger saying this. After a rather funny English speech a few years ago, many Germans perhaps do not take him serious in a way, and so the statements of his Hamburg speech are not surprising to many. And then there were, among other things, also journalist colleagues which have considered the whole as not so dramatic. So the very popular news anchor Klaus Kleber, for example, tweeted, "Wherever we talk only like image consultants, PC virtuous guards or lawyers, I do not want to be speaker or listener." And another news anchor, Christian Sievers, tweeted, "Commissioner or comedian or both." So maybe there's not the reaction which is very strong with Mr. Oettinger. But now we have to look what will happen with the new possible Oettinger jet affair. Depending on how this goes on and what may still come afterwards, he will probably lose sight. The Germans probably forgive the commissioner a speech rather than the use of personal amenities, I think.
New events coming up in this Oettinger case. Thank you, Holger. We are almost at the end, but we have to talk about one commissioner who left or who intends to leave the commission. She took up another job. It's vice president of the commission, Kristalina Georgieva, the Bulgarian commissioner. It was reported in the press that she was not happy with the way this commission is organized, that she was not happy with Martin Selmayr, the chief of staff of Jean-Claude Juncker. But here's what she said, what she told Nikola Miladinov from Bulgarian National Radio when he asked her whether she was disappointed with someone in her current work at the Commission.
Определено не. Аз съм много благодарна на България за това, че ми даде възможност в продължение на 7 години да бъда български еврокомисар. И много благодарна на Жан-Клод Юнкер за това, че ми довери един от най-важните ресори в комисията, бюджет и човешки ресурси. Работя с прекрасни хора. Имах и имам колеги, с които много се гордея.
Artjoms, it's probably not a surprise that Georgieva is denying those rumors. the Commission is being unsatisfied. There have been more rumors about that. What's your opinion on that? What do you hear from your Commissioner?
Well, I think the role that has been given to a former Prime Minister Valdis Dombrovskis is an important one, and definitely, therefore, he is also the person who is quite satisfied with the fact that he has this important portfolio. On the other hand, you see that there is an inherited tension built into the way this commission is set up, namely that there are several people whose responsibilities overlap, and they often come from different political groups and have different views on how issues shall be resolved.
Like Valdis Dombrovskis and Pierre Moscovici.
That's a very clear example on, for instance, what shall be done with Greece, what the attitude should be towards the French budget issues. Should France be given more time or not be given more time? And this is, from what I understand from the background conversations with various people here in Brussels, is actually one of the issues where also the big versus small member states come into play, because if they see that, well, you cannot solve the issue by, let's say, persuading Dombrovskis, who may say, no, France shall not be granted more time, then the people concerned would just go to Juncker, and Juncker has famously said, well, France is France, that's why it's receiving its special treatment.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you, Artjoms. That's it, that's the end of this show. Thank you all for coming. Thank you, and see you soon on You Talking to Me.